Okay, so last month, May 2026, I had a procedure called a hysterosalpingogram, or an HSG for short. The process includes threading a catheter through the cervix, inflating a balloon, injecting contrast dye, and watching under live x ray whether my fallopian tubes are open. Mine were fabulous, anatomically sound. And then I cried a lot in the parking lot, plus many days afterwards. Not because of the procedure, because getting to that parking lot took 4 years, thousands of dollars out of pocket, a parasite, a prediabetes diagnosis, a gut that resembled a crime scene, somewhere in the middle of all of it, PCOS, PMOS diagnosis, which completely shifted everything I thought I knew about my body. So if you've been following along, you might know some of that. Welcome back. I'm Viki, a PCC resilience coach and holotropic breathwork facilitator, and this is for the late diagnosed neurodivergent woman who's done being told that they're fine when obviously they are anything but. So today is a more personal episode, a bonus, if you will. So I'm just going to share my inevitably 4-year health reclamation story because I'm tired of hearing wellness content that tells you someone reversed everything without receipts. So I'm going to walk you through the whole thing. I'll start with what the labs actually said. So in 2022, I was 32. You may or may not recall that I received my late ADHD diagnosis, and instead of opting for meds, I opted for supplements. This decision prompted the taking of a full hormonal lab blood panel, which was surprising because prior to working with this functional practitioner, the medical system's answers to my questions were, you're stressed, sleep more, here's a referral, consider these meds. You know the deal in these United States. So alongside Dr. Janaya Beatty at True Phoenix, based out of Maryland, we reviewed some real stats under my hood. HbA1c of 6.1, prediabetes. LDL elevated, ferritin elevated, vitamin D borderline deficient. TSH crashed to 0.006, critically low. My thyroid is running hot in a way that looks like hyperthyroidism. Progesterone, 0.2, way too low for where I was in my cycle. Estradiol was low. That's what anovulation looks like in a lab result. And also quietly what infertility looks like. So PCOS definitely was diagnosed at that time as well. And I thought I could just get pregnant because I had been pregnant before. The trigger for all of this was I wanted an accommodation on an upcoming exam. So I thought, let me finally get this ADHD diagnosis, having no idea it would force open this essentially wild multi-year ride with a dysfunctioning body. In mid-2025, so several years later, the good doc runs the most comprehensive panel I'd ever had, including a stool test. Highly recommend. The gut results came back. Parasite, which comes through contaminated food or water, doesn't matter. But by that point, I had just returned from a 2-month honeymoon in Turkey and Eastern Europe. Some pork was eaten, okay? The parasite was sitting on top of existing small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO, which was sitting on top of a depleted dysbiotic microbiome with really terrible bacteria, poor diversity. You know, by now I've had to learn all this medical jargon because I've had to take my health truly into my own hands. My estrogen metabolism was what they call the dirty pathway. So my body was converting estrogen poorly with barely any protection, thus 3 fibroids I'd found out about through an abrupt transvaginal ultrasound that I happened upon. This metabolically set me up for more fibroids, cysts, and estrogen-related cancers. My cortisol to cortisone ratio was too low. My doctor prescribed this as chronic stress adaptation. Meant my body had been converting its own stress hormone into an inactive form faster than normal as a protective mechanism. That result is the kind of particular tired, wired yet endlessly exhausted that many of you have probably felt. Push through, crash, push through again. You know what I'm talking about. Burnout, burnout, burnout. Several heavy metals were triple the acceptable rate, barium and nickel. Honestly, I was devastated, shocked at the level of absolute dysfunction in a body I had not realized was just SOSing for as long as it was. I just thought I was gaining weight, suddenly having adult acne, simply struggling to get pregnant, just writing these signs off as aging. I guess I'm getting older. And a quick caveat that feels imperative to mention: ADHD is not a focus problem, it's a nervous system regulation issue that has a lot of collateral damage. The ADHD brain tends to have a dysregulated dopamine system. The threat detection machinery runs differently as well. Our window of tolerance for lifing is narrow. The stress response fires faster and stays fired for longer. The body never gets the all clear, good to go signal. When the nervous system is in chronic low-grade activation, cortisol follows. And when cortisol is dysregulated long-term, gut motility suffers, stomach acid changes, gut lining becomes more permeable, microbiome shifts, immune function depletes, hormones are affected. When you're dysregulated long enough, like decades, one can become a hospitable environment for things like SIBO, parasites, estrogen not metabolizing correctly, blood sugar regulation getting taxed, thyroid trying to compensate in vain, body generating fibroids trying to deal with the hormonal chaos, mast cell activation syndrome, PCOS, SIBO, the parasite, the prediabetes, the estrogen dominance, the fibroids, the infertility. These were not all separate problems. Actually, they were all downstream of the same root, a nervous system that was never given the tools to regulate itself, running hot for 3 decades. This recognition has singularly changed my entire approach to healing and also just my body at 36. So honestly, what the healing has required, because I think we do people a disservice when we make it sound like vibes and vegetables, you feel me? So this has required testing every 6 months for 4 years. It's required paying out of pocket for a functional medicine doctor because this kind of comprehensive systemic healthcare is rarely covered by insurance. Not that I have that either. Health shares all the way. It required following a protocol for 3 months, twice an elimination protocol, starting with a parasite cleanse, because you can't build on a contaminated foundation. The gut protocol ran in 3 phases: remove and soothe, targeted at pathogen and overgrowth, reinoculation and rebuild, which was introducing specific strains of probiotics, digestive enzyme supports, and then diversifying and sustaining. Lots of supplements for different phases. Yes, there was a lot of supplements, right? It required adrenal support, more sleep, non-negotiable. I strength trained, I still do, 2-3 times a week, sauna 4 times a week, daily walking, 10,000 steps, morning elixir that I will die on this hill, lemon with the rind, Celtic salt, raw ginger, chia, coconut oil, honey. An elimination diet that was now mostly anti-inflammatory with protein and fiber, lymphatic care, acupuncture, jumping, stretching, massage, dry brushing, intentionally lessening my productivity for productivity's sake, learning how to rest. I amped up my own breath work, which is not just a wellness aesthetic, it's a physiological intervention. It directly down-regulates the autonomic nervous system. It moves us from sympathetic fight or flight to parasympathetic rest and repair. For a nervous system that's been dysregulated since childhood, it's not optional. This is the thing that allows every other intervention to actually begin working together. I started therapy after 2 decades. I've been doing somatic work. I'm listening to music I grew up dancing to on walks instead of podcasts. Shout out Early Pink. I read more fiction. I'm addressing ancestral patterns, early experiences that had taught my nervous system to stay on alert in the first place. I cannot supplement my way out of a dysregulated nervous system. I have actually had to regulate my nervous system. So my most recent results from May 2026, last month, over around 4 years from whence I began this unexpected journey I didn't anticipate being on. Parasite is gone. No pathogens, no candida, no leaky gut, no acute inflammatory markers of any kind. Fibroids gone. My microbiome is actually rebuilding. It's not solved. But all that work and sacrifice is working. Low to no SIBO, so still a little bit there. Low, balanced, manageable MCAS and PCOS. Estrogen dominance dissolved. Thyroid is back in range. My cycle is regular, more regular than it's ever been. Prediabetes is reversed. A1C, not a concern. I've gotten my fifth vital sign or my fertility back on track, regardless of whether or not I do have kids. My fertility is my health marker. So here's what I want to really share. The medical system is not designed to see us clearly. Shocker. It is not designed to connect the dots between a nervous system that never learned to regulate and a gut that has become a parasite's home, plus some. It's not designed to ask whether the prediabetes and the fibroids and the MCAS and the infertility might all be coming from the same root. And it's especially not designed to consider that a late diagnosed neurodivergent woman of color in her 30s might have been running on empty since childhood, actually. But here's what I do know. Dysregulation is not brokenness. Broken things cannot be healed. Dysregulated systems can find their way back to regulation and repair. They need the right information, the right support, and the right conditions to do it. You are not broken. Your body is not betraying you. Your body is doing the most creative things it can do with the inputs it's being given. So the work for us is actually changing those inputs, right? It's possible. It's not easy. It's taken a long time and quite a few shekels to get here. And for me, discipline does come a bit easier than a lot of other neurodivergent people. I will absolutely say that clearly and aloud. And I view this now as an 80-20 protocol. 80% of the time, I am sticking to those disciplined things I mentioned: the sauna, the walking, the anti-inflammatory, the making sure I'm eating 3 times a day, no matter what. Like, I'm doing those things. 20% of the time, I'm fucking around. So I am beyond thrilled that I have been able to shift my health with the support of a caring, functional doc. And there's nothing about this process or a process similar to this one that is easy, but I do believe we can find ways to make it simple. And so this has become a real driver behind why I want to go forward with getting my national board certification of health and wellness coaching so that I can speak to this sort of thing legally and ethically and much more clearly with clients of mine, where it feels like there's this big gap that I am ethically unable to delve into because I'm a coach and I do adhere to those ethical lines. So I got some work ahead of me still, at least academically, but my body is at a place it hasn't been maybe ever, and I am just thrilled to report it. So it is more than possible for you. I'd love to hear where you may be in this kind of journey, and you can always reach out to me. So until then, that's it for this bonus. I will check y'all next week. Back to our regularly scheduled programming.